What's up, YouTube? We're going back to the fundamentals of marksmanship today. I'm glad you guys are here. It's going to be a super simple lesson today, but an important one. And we're going to talk about how to build a good grip on your pistol. Now, why is it important to have a good grip? It's so that you can manage recoil, all right? I guess the standard would be for you to have a good enough grip to where you could dump an entire mag quickly out of your pistol and not have to stop at any point and readjust your grip. The other thing that your grip's going to play into is your trigger press, right? And we talk about trigger press all the time here on the channel. If you don't have a good trigger press, when the shot breaks, you're going to usually pull low and left. If you start smashing that trigger, you're going to miss your target. So we want to be able to manage recoil and have a good trigger press, which is important on this old trusty unit that we're going to be using for the sake of the video today, this Glock 19X. It does have the standard Glock trigger in it, which is absolutely terrible. But this thing is still sitting in my safe, just waiting for the apocalypse. You know, I rarely take this thing out and shoot it, but this is the apocalypse gun right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you. So let's get into this lesson about grip. Now, the Almighty gave you two hands. Optimally, we want to use two hands when we grip our pistol. Now, you should practice shooting your pistol with one hand, both your strong hand and your weak hand, in case something happens and one of these things become disabled, right? But for this video, we're going to talk about two hands. I call my right hand my inside hand. This is really important, what you're doing with this inside hand, all right? First of all, we want to get as high on the pistol as we possibly can. So Blake told me this was called the beaver tail of the pistol. So we want to get as high up in that beaver tail as we possibly can. We don't ever want to grip our pistol with any space between the web of our hand right there and that beaver tail. If you ever see a little gap, even a small gap in there, you're wrong. Again, we're talking about managing recoil. The higher we can get on the pistol, the better we're going to be able to manage that recoil, because we're getting closer to the bore axis. These fingers wrap around the pistol and going right along with that high grip. We want these fingers to be right up against the bottom, or pressed up against the bottom of that trigger guard. You guys will see how a lot of manufacturers will actually have a little cutout there in that trigger guard, and it's not just a straight line back to the grip. You might be wondering why they did that little cutout, and that's because you want to get, and they want you to get, as high up on that trigger guard as you possibly can, all right? So inside hand, if we're thinking about percentages in terms of like strength or how we're squeezing the pistol, this isn't always perfect, and it's a little different for everybody else, but we're looking at probably getting 30 to max 40% of our grip out of this inside hand. Why does it need to be more relaxed than our outside hand? Well, because we have our trigger finger attached to our right hand. This is what we're going to use to press the trigger. So if we have a white knuckle death grip and say we're getting 60, 70, 80% of our grip, which most of you probably are using this hand to really crank down on that pistol, it makes it really hard for us to control that trigger press when we go to take the shot, all right? If we can relax this hand, or semi-relax this hand, it's going to allow us to move our trigger finger independently of the rest of our hand. The more tight we're squeezing, the more we want to do this number right here, where our other fingers are moving with that trigger finger during the trigger press, and that is actually what causes you most of the time to pull low and left. So we want these bottom fingers to be able to remain steady and still in place while we press that trigger. This is a good exercise that you guys can do just for fun to see if your brain can move that trigger finger independent of the rest of your hand, all right? So 30 to 40% nice and high right here. Now, this hand right here is our outside hand, and I'm actually gonna be squeezing just like this with this outside hand. Again, we're going right up against the trigger guard. I'm coming around, I'm wrapping around, and I'm squeezing, all right? Just like this. Now, that's where I'm getting the rest of my grip from. The majority of my grip is here. So we're talking about maybe 60 to 70%, all right? Now, you say, well, we got 10% left. Where does the other 10% come? Now, that comes in when you actually present the pistol out, and when you do that, once you get to full extension, you're actually using your chest to press your palms together, all right? And that's gonna create a nice backstop when this pistol does recoil and you take the shot, so that it's not slipping or working its way backwards out of your hands, all right? This is another place that we look for a gap when we're building a good grip, is right here in our palms. If you're gripping the pistol like this, I'm relaxed here, I'm squeezing here, but I have a gap between my two palms, that's a no-no, all right? We want to grip it to where we can close that gap, and when we present, we're squeezing our palms together, giving us that last little bit of our grip. What do we do with our thumbs? All right, thumbs and actually wrists. It's very, very common for new shooters, almost every time they want to cross their thumbs just like this. Cornbread still shoots this way because he just refuses to do things right. All right, so a lot of you guys, rednecks, you've been shooting a long time, you're so used to crossing your thumbs, you just can't figure out how to not do that. This is the incorrect way to shoot our pistol right here with our thumbs crossed. We actually want our thumbs laying right on top of each other. Again, that allows us to close our palms together, and we want them nice and high on the pistol, all right? Almost, this thumb on my outside hand is almost pointing straight forward in alignment with my muzzle at whatever target I'm taking a shot at. So nice and high on the slide. What this does, again, it allows us to get up higher on the gun, but it also, when we point that thumb, it creates a nice straight line in our wrist right here, which is going to transfer most of that recoil into the large bones of our forearm. And if we have a bend in our wrist and our thumbs are low, just like this, then I'm having to control the recoil of this pistol with my wrist joint, all right? This is absorbing all of that recoil. This is not strong. If I straighten this out and I take that wrist joint out of the equation, transfer that recoil into the big bones of my arm, I'm far more likely to control that recoil, especially over the course of multiple shots, all right? So thumbs nice and high on the slide, creating that straight line in our wrist. Again, this is pretty relaxed on the inside. I'm squeezing here, palms come together, and then that's when I would move into my trigger press. I'm almost constantly checking in with this inside hand because it does want to become tense. You guys see right now, you can see the imprint of the grip on my inside hand. Usually, if you can see the imprint of the grip on the skin of your inside hand, that probably means you're gripping too tight with that inside hand, all right? So, hope you guys learned something today about grip. It's important to control recoil for follow-up shots, and also to get a nice, smooth, good, clean trigger press. Go practice it dry firing, get out on the range, practice it, see the difference that it makes in your shooting. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks guys for tuning in. Drop me a comment. Let me know if there are any special tips or tricks that you use to grip your pistol properly. Love you guys. Nuff said.